is a beautiful thing. It grows to the quiver of a fife that sings. I can take it with the wave of my hand and place it upon my music stand. Such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Special acknowledgement now for those of you who are watching this as a prepared video. We publish all of my talks on 3 different platforms. They are on YouTube, they are on Rumble, and they are on BitChute. So please subscribe to whatever platform you are watching these on, and make sure to hit the like button. The more likes these videos get, the more that platform shares them on the home pages of their different users, which means more people watch them. So it really helps if you like them, and that will get more people to see them. And also, I really encourage you to leave a comment after you watch it, and I often respond to those comments. So love to hear your comment, just a few little sentences of some thoughts that you may have had after you watch the video. So again, thank you. Watch all the videos. There's hundreds of them there, literally. We've been doing these videos on YouTube for, I think, 11 years now, so there's quite a few. Okay, first of all, I want to declare that I am not a sports fan at all. Completely not. I would never think about going to a large sports event. Just wouldn't occur to me. I would never think about watching a big game on television. I do like parties, though, and I do like being invited to Super Bowl parties because I like the party. And I watch the game and get into it, so I'm always open to a Super Bowl party invite. Just think about that. Nobody invited me last year. So next year, invite me. I'd love to go. I frequently joke around. I tell people that I was not born with the sports gene. I don't know. I don't register. So with all that qualifying and all those caveats, I do want to also say, though, that I am aware of the ability of sports to bring people together in joy and celebration. And I am all about bringing people together in joy and celebration. I think that's a tremendous thing. And sports do that. And I acknowledge that. There's a lot of healing that goes on with sports. And there was a tremendous amount of healing I felt that went on recently with the great World Cup Championship FIFA, thing that happened here in the United States. It's important to remember there were also games going on in Mexico and Canada. And they went on for 39 days through June and July. It was a long period of time. And they went on right here in the United States, right in the middle of us having the Semiquincentennial. So we had all of these international people visiting and attending games in all these cities all throughout the United States. It was pretty amazing. So a lot of this talk today is really just me witnessing that, because I feel it was truly healing. And I like to witness healing. Of course, A Miracle says, your witnessing demonstrates your belief and thus strengthens it. Those who witness for me are expressing through their miracles that they have abandoned the belief in deprivation in favor of the abundance they have learned belongs to them. So just get it. I'm witnessing to something that I don't have an affinity towards, but I do have an affinity towards joining and celebrating and healing. And I am witnessing to that because that I felt truly happened. On July 17th, I think that's the day after the Championship World Cup game happened, the president of FIFA, which is the big soccer, they call it football, organization. His name is Gianni Infantino. Sounds pretty Italian to me. I think he is Italian. He was speaking, and he was praising President Donald Trump and talking about how essential President Donald Trump was to getting these games. I guess they first started organizing it in 2018 during the first term of President Trump's presidency. Uh, and then also President Infantino, president of FIFA, he said that this was the most successful World Cup event games that they have ever had. And he called it the greatest human, social, and cultural event that mankind has ever witnessed. Okay, get that again. The greatest human, social, and cultural event that mankind has ever witnessed. And when I heard him say that and I thought about it and saw it written down, I think he was right. I mean, we've had Olympics. Olympics are amazing. But this was sort of up on another notch somehow. And mankind and people from all over the world had witnessed it, mostly centered in the United States, right in the midst of our 250th year Independence Day celebration, which was also an awesome thing. And you kept hearing about how international visitors who came to watch these games, to root on their country's team, they frequently said how surprised they were about what a great place America was, the United States of America, how friendly people were, and how much fun they were having here in America. That was like a very often repeated story. So, I just think it went a long way of making the world feel like one and healing the idea of the United States of America, especially as it was seen through the eyes of foreign people. FIFA president Gianni Infantino, as I said, he praised President Trump. He said, "The American dream, Mr. President, came to reality. We united the world." I thought that was a great statement. And then he said, this World Cup would not have been such an incredible success without you. So I thought that was a pretty amazing statement, too. And, I realized that a lot of people probably had a little trouble with that statement. Here, I got a picture of the president of FIFA, Mr. Infantino, and President Trump. I think that's a picture actually from when they made the statement, too. So I know that, a lot of people have trouble with President Trump. And so I do want to acknowledge that. But this was one of those moments when, a major healing event had happened. And the person who was in charge of organizing the event, definitely, and he was sincere when you listen to him. You could just feel his sincerity. He definitely wanted to thank President Trump for all that President Trump did to make this event happen. And I thought that was pretty healing and pretty amazing, and got a lot of people to pause for a moment and just maybe choose a different perception about things. So I think that was amazing. On last Sunday, Sunday afternoon, July 19th, that was when the final game was being played between Spain and Argentina. And at that time, Duselthi and I were looking for a place to go have brunch after the Sunday gathering. Went to a little neighborhood in San Francisco called Noe Valley that we go to occasionally, a little off the beaten tourist path, but it's a real inner city residential neighborhood with a lot of wonderful little shops and restaurants there. And as we were walking down the street after we finally found a place to park, I kept, all these places had all these people outside. These restaurants and these bars had these people outside, a lot of them. And I didn't know what it was about at first, but then when we got close and walked by them, what I got is they were watching this final football match between Spain and Argentina. And they were cheering on their favorite team, which was kind of amazing since neither team was USA. It was Spain and Argentina. But people seemed, right in the spirit of the joy of the competition and joining. And it was also really interesting that these restaurants and bars, they had put big screen TVs like right in their windows or outside on the sidewalk. So they were gathering all kinds of people, not just people who were dining or drinking. You can't drink on the street in San Francisco, but not some places do have dining on the street. So there were all these people just passers by that were just there participating in watching the sport event. They weren't giving business to the restaurant, but they seemed to be just fine with everybody being there. It was just really a very interesting thing to watch. I've never really seen anything like it. So I do think Mr. Infantino was right. I also wanted to note and mention that his name means childlike and youthful. Infantino means like an infant, with the qualities of an infant, the innocence and the childlike. And there is a certain childlike innocence about him when he speaks that's really appealing. So I don't know if you watched that game, you know anything about that game that happened with Spain versus Argentina. It was a very, very, very close game. It was about as close as you get, which means it was scoreless for most of the game. And Spain beat Argentina by just one goal, right at the very end, of course. It was right at the very end when that goal happened. And I have also got a picture of that. Okay, there's a picture of right afterwards when they were presenting Spain. You can see how just happy everybody. Of course, they were the winning team there. But look at the crowds. They were in, like the biggest football, American football stadiums we have around the country. You see President Trump and the FIFA president Infantino there on the right of the picture. Uh, and some people have, criticized sports, other people who aren't sports people like me, but, that it's competition and there's always a winner and a loser. That's definitely the field of the ego. Yeah, I guess you could go to that perception, but I think that misses the point. People were celebrating, people were having a good time, people were joining together in these incredible stadiums all over the United States and some in Canada and Mexico. And I do think it was a pretty awesome thing that happened. And a lot of people just joined. And a lot of people really joined and went to the games who, weren't people that were from those countries. They were American citizens who were supporting this, not necessarily, it wasn't filled with fans from the two countries who were playing. A lot of the fans were American citizens. So, just for a little statistics, there were 104 games in the whole FIFA World Cup Championship. They played to packed stadiums, as I said, US, Mexico, and Canada. It was from June 11th to July 19th. Those are the 39 days. 16 different stadiums in 16 different cities. 11 of the cities were in the USA. 3 of the cities were in Mexico. 2 of the cities were in Canada. FIFA says that 6,810,966 fans at one time or another were seated in those stadiums, which is an average of 65,490 fans per game. And it is reported that those stadiums and those games had a 99.7 occupancy rate. I mean, this is unheard of. That many people. And then, of course, those are the people that were actually at the games. But think of how many millions, even billions of people were watching these from around the world. I certainly saw all kinds of people in San Francisco watching the final match last Sunday. So all these people having the shared experience of life and excitement in different countries, competing with each other peacefully. And all of these games went without any real negative incidents. So for those who find something negative to say about this whole thing, I'll remind you of the things that Reverend Paula read. Have you really considered how many opportunities you have had to gladden yourselves and how many you have refused? Don't refuse opportunities to gladden yourselves. People were having fun all over the place. People were just gladdening themselves. It's a very simple idea. That quote to me doesn't mean some sort of transcendent, beyond the body experience of ethereal bliss. It's talking about day to day stuff. Gladden yourself, doing fun things, joining with people. Joining with people is fun. Packing 65,000 people in a stadium, if you observe it right, can be a whole lot of fun too. Just having that shared experience. Eating the stadium food, drinking a beer maybe, if you do such things. People were having a good time. There's a second time the quote, gladden yourself, also appears in A Course in Miracles. Reverend Paula read both of them. Says, I have told you before to think of how many opportunities you have to gladden yourselves. And he had. And how many you have refused. Says, this is exactly the same as telling you that you have refused to heal yourselves. So just taking opportunities to choose positive perceptions about things like the World Cup, um, choosing those positive perceptions, that's healing ourselves. Engaging in the gladdening and the joyful celebration and this joyful event that brought so many people together and gave so many people this common experience. That's very, very healing. And I'm just really glad that so many people decided not to refuse this amazing healing opportunity. A lot of people right now, I hear it, they choosing to focus about negative things that are going on in the world. Certainly the war in Iran and the Ukraine. I mean, there's always negative things going on in the world that you can choose to focus on. But this was an unprecedented coming together for mutual gladdening. And I certainly want to acknowledge it. I'm not going to let it go unacknowledged. So it was not lost to the perception of this miracle worker, Reverend Tony, that something truly amazing was going on. It's never healing to have real negative feelings towards people. I was mentioning the negative feelings that a lot of people have about President Trump. So much so that they didn't even really like that the FIFA president was praising President Trump. He did it several times. And this is it's just something we need to challenge. It's never healing for ourselves, for the world, to harbor real negative feelings like that or to harbor hatred. The Course says, if hatred finds a place within your heart, you will perceive a fearful world held cruelly in death's sharp-pointed, bony fingers. If you feel the love of God within you, you look out upon a world of mercy and of love. We can't harbor hatred. We have to choose the positive. The Course says, dream softly of your sinless brother. Collect his thoughtfulness to think about instead of counting up the hurts he gave. So when we think of people like maybe President Trump, do we choose his thoughtfulness, whatever he did to help that World Cup be so successful? Or do we choose those things that he did that we don't like when we're thinking about him? Well, it's a choice. We have to make that choice. And let's make the merciful choice. Let's have a merciful choice so that we can look out upon a merciful world. Well, we all want a merciful world, don't we? Mercy is an interesting word. I wanted to talk a little bit about it. I've talked about it before. The definition of mercy, it's compassion or forgiveness shown toward someone whom it is within one's power to punish or harm. Let me repeat it. Compassion or forgiveness shown toward someone whom it is within one's power to punish or harm. Okay, that's what mercy is. So let's create an image in our mind. So let's go back to ancient Rome. Ancient Rome, gladiators fighting to the death in matches in the Colosseum. People don't like sports today. Think about the sports they had in ancient Rome. They were death sports, blood sports. And remember that it wasn't just the Colosseum in the city of Rome. There were Colosseums, smaller ones, all throughout the Roman Empire where these gladiator matches happened. And after a gladiator had physically bested his opponent, probably severely injured him, the winning gladiator had the right to strike a death blow because these were battles to the death. So the winning gladiator could kill the one that he had just defeated. However, the triumphant gladiator had the right also to show mercy, to show mercy and not kill the defeated opponent. And sometimes the winning gladiator would look to the crowd assembled in the Colosseums that he was playing in or having this match in, and he'd ask the crowd, or maybe the political leader, whether the crowd or the political leader wanted him, the winning gladiator, to show mercy to the defeated gladiator. So remember that the defeated gladiator was probably lying in the dirt, severely injured, bleeding with broken limbs. Sometimes maybe ending that very injured gladiator's life might really seem like the merciful thing to do. But it was always the prerogative of the triumphant gladiator to show true mercy and not do the death blow and leave the defeated gladiator alive. So, think about that when you think about mercy, when the Course talks about mercy. That's what mercy is. Mercy is you have the right and maybe the power to do something hurtful or harmful, but you choose not to. You choose not to. And it's always unto us to have mercy. So think of all the times that you felt totally entitled to hate or to speak badly of or to criticize or to demean someone. And you were sure you had the moral upper hand here, that you really could do it. And maybe you even had the massive agreement from the crowd in order to just carry through and do that. Well, first of all, don't be the triumphant gladiator calling out to the world, the crowd, as to whether or not you should show mercy. Show mercy because you know it's the right thing to do. You know it's what the Holy Spirit wants you to do. You know it's what Jesus wants you to do. You know it's what God wants you to do. The Course says sacrificing another in any way is a clear-cut violation of God's own injunction that man should be merciful, even as his Father in heaven. So the Father in heaven, God, the Creator, is always merciful. We should be merciful, even when we think we have the right to not be. And it's not about what the world says, not about what the crowd says. It's about that inner knowing that comes from our connection to the divine. We know that we should be merciful. Okay, I want to talk about a personal example. On September 9th, 2021, 5 years ago almost, President Joe Biden, who was our president at the time, in a public address to the nation, said that those who were unvaccinated were dangerous to society and they were hurting the rest of society. He said that the decision not to get the COVID shot, quote, cost all of us. And he said that the unvaccinated minority can cause a lot of damage, and they are. And you got to remember there were estimated as 80 million people who were unvaccinated at that time. And I was one of the unvaccinated because I had been very clear in my guidance that I wasn't supposed to get this vaccine, which I thought I had the perfect right to make that decision. Our bodies, ourselves. It's my body. I had that right. And it was really strange to hear the President of the United States. I've never seen so many Americans being demonized by their president before. It was shocking. It was scary. And then he said the one line that really got me. He goes, "Our patience is wearing thin." And it wasn't so much the words of the line, it was kind of the energy that he put into saying it. It was really negative. And it was the American president telling the American people that they could be impatient and intolerant with 80 million of their fellow citizens. He was giving permission to basically attack the unvaccinated people. He was scapegoating a huge swath of citizens. And how was that really unlike what the Nazis did with the Jews? I mean, I just couldn't, I literally couldn't believe it. Now, I thought I had the moral higher ground there. I thought that I had every right to hate President Biden. But I was, of course, a miracle student, and I knew that I had to be merciful, and that there was no way that it was a good thing to harbor that kind of hatred. I did not post hateful memes about President Biden on Facebook. I did express my opinion about things, but I always respected him as the president. I always called him President Biden. I always, thought of him respectfully. I respected the office, even if I didn't like the way that he was behaving. I didn't meet hatred with more hatred. I tried to find the love in my heart for President Biden. And as I said, I respected the office. And I think I did a pretty decent job with that. But I just leave you with just a little challenge, How are you feeling and thinking about our current leaders? Sure, they're saying things maybe that you don't like, but not everybody feels the same way, maybe, that you do about them. And regardless of who it is and what party and what leanings you have, can you really just let that all go and just find the mercy in yourself? Don't call out to the crowd to get their permission to be hateful. Find it within yourself to be merciful, and find it within yourself to claim all those many, many opportunities we have just to simply gladden ourselves all throughout our day, all throughout our life experience. Join the people. Join the fun. Billions of people had a wonderful experience about this recent World Cup. And millions of people had a wonderful experience about the United States of America during it. Do you want to indulge in a hateful dialogue that talking about the United States of America is on decline and we're not respected in the world? No, that wasn't the experience of President Infantino. He really talked about how great it was for the world. And I'm going to choose that experience because I'm going to be merciful. Okay, that's my talk for the day. Thank you very much for being here and listening.
A flower is a beautiful thing. It grows to the quiver of a fife that sings. I can take it with the wave of my hand and place it upon my music stand. Such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing.